We are talking about the other topics in child nutrition, other topics that normally are in our ABVM training, but because of COVID and doing a lot of the trainings virtually, we've broken it out a little bit to break things up. So this morning, we're going to be talking about professional standards, smart snacks, and the exempt fundraisers, your local wellness policy, the after-school snack program, and the fresh fruit and vegetable program. So let's get started with professional standards. Professional standards came about with the Healthy Free Hunger Kids Act in 2010. It includes all child nutrition employees or even volunteers that work with the child nutrition program. It also includes the food service management company employees. They have to have professional standard hours as well. Now, it is also a part of the administrative review. Your consultant, when they come to do a review, ask you for your administrative review documents for your professional standards. There are 3 job categories that a school can use: a director, a manager, and a staff. A director is typically the person who oversees the entire program. The manager is usually the one designated to work in the kitchen to oversee kitchen duties. And staff, of course, are your cooks, your bakers, your dishwashers, anyone else, your cashiers. The State Department does not tell the school which categories a school must have, but all schools must have a director. Now, if you're that person that you do everything, but you're titled manager, that still means you are probably considered the director of the school, and you'll need the required hours for a director. The professional standards also includes hiring standards for schools. All districts must have a designated CNP director. So if you're considered just the manager, you may be designated as the director to have the minimum number of hours. Also, if a school is with a food service management company, the school has to have someone designated as a director, and so does the management company, and both are required to get the 12 hours for a director. There is also hiring standards for schools, school districts, and you can find that information in the child nutrition compliance document. It's no longer the compliance document. It is the manual, the child nutrition manual. If you're over a certain enrollment, that director is required to have either so much college or experience. Districts that have enrollment under 500 with state agency approval can hire someone maybe with just a high school diploma or GED if they have the required experience and then they are the best qualified candidate for the position. A lot of times we find during administrative reviews, no one from the school has reached out to the State Department, and they have only hired, they've hired Susie Q down the hall, and that may or may not be the best qualified candidate. So please check with your consultant or here at the State Department when you're hiring a new cafeteria director. Professional standards are your continuing education hours for the folks in the child nutrition field. We want you to have these training hours because it helps with your training to provide nutritious meals for your children, understanding best business practices, understanding the tools that are out there, learning different and new ideas, and excessive training hours. So if you have reached, say you're the director and you have 20 hours for this year, those excess hours can carry over to the next school year. You want to track these hours some way. You can track them on a spreadsheet. You can use the tracking tool at USDA. We also have that tracking tool in CARS. If you're not the person who can get into the CARS system, the good news is if you ask for the link, we can send you the link, and all of our documents can be accessed in the CARS system without a login. So if you are needing to point your employees to do some trainings, we have trainings listed in the CARS and other documents that they would not have to have a login, username, password, or anything for the CARS system. You're not required to use any specific thing, but I would really get with my area consultant and make sure what you're using is easily accessible, readable, and that consultant knows what you're doing and how you're tracking. So we talked about the different categories. Each person, like I said, is required to have so many training hours. A director is required to have 12 training hours. Manager is required to have 10. Your staff is required to have 6. Part-time folks that work less than 20 hours a week are required to have 4 hours. And if you're in the need of hiring a new person and you hire them before January 1st, they're required to get all the training hours. If they're hired after January 1st or later, then it's kind of prorated half of those requirements for each job category. Now, if you're the person who is the director and the manager of your cafeteria and you're thinking, okay, I've got to get 22 hours, that's a lot of training hours. No, you just have to do the hire. So you would be responsible for getting the director 12 hours per year. You don't want anyone to panic and think they need way more hours than they have. Some people tell us, oh, we have trouble getting enough hours, and we're going to go over some ways to get training in another slide. So let's talk about what you can train on or what counts as training for child nutrition. Of course, if you are taking a class like today, we would consider today probably administration. So that goes under category 3000, and you will obtain an hour for this training session. If you're training on nutrition, cafeteria managers training would be nutrition. That would be in the category 1000. And what these numbers are, they were created by SNA to help tracking purposes. And if you're using one of the tracking tools or you decide to use one of the tracking tools, these numbers will be relevant at that time. Administration is the 3000. Communication and marketing. So if you are at an SNA conference and you attend the food show, that would be considered marketing under the 4000 job class. So I'm going to try to take us to the professional standards website. Let's see if this is going to work. And I may ask you guys to put in the chat. And I may have to share my screen again. So let me new share and go to the tracking tool. Can you guys see the USDA professional standards? Someone pop up in the chat and tell me. Okay, so you're seeing this. Let me see if I can get rid of the welcome. Welcome. All right. I don't see an exit button to get rid of the welcome. But here you can see there's search for different trainings in those categories that we talked about: the nutrition, operations, administration, communication. It gives you states participating, how many trainings they have. A lot of these trainings are for free, so you're not going to be required to get a purchase order, pay for those trainings. And if I were in your shoes, I would look for all the free trainings I could. So, you know, it doesn't cost my budget additional money. And there's a lot of good training at USDA, the Institute for Child Nutrition, and on team nutrition. And we're going to kind of talk about each of those a little more as we go through this morning. So finding and training. So let's say we want to find something on communication, and you can see state-specific trainings, and you're welcome to, you know, click in and do any of the state trainings that are listed on here. All kinds of things, events, the about the professional standards. It lets us, tells us, you know, why they were, I guess you could say, started. It says the professional standards for nutrition is a key provision of the Healthy 300 Kids Act. The final rule was published in 2015, and it talks about the minimum hiring standards for state directors, for schools, for the breakfast program. So all of this is very, very important for us to obtain our hours. Now, let me see if I can go back to the PowerPoint. Doing things like this can be very scary. And it took me back to the beginning. So let me go from the current slide. All right, so we should be back to seeing the professional standard key areas and key topics. So annual required trainings. If you are a school district, you are required to have some annual required trainings. Food safety training, the director, that person listed as that director for your school district must have at least 8 hours of food safety training every year. Not every year, every 5 years. Sorry, I just scared everyone to death. Every 5 years. Offer versus serve. If your school participates in offer versus serve, that training is a required training. Says unless a K through 8 that does not implement offer versus serve, then they're exempt. High school level children, high schools with 9 through 12 are required to offer versus serve to their students in the lunchroom. Now, with some of the waivers and things that we have in place for this year, your school may not be implementing offer versus serve, and that is one of the waivers that you can opt into on your seamless summer application. And I know maybe some of you are not the director or the person in charge. You're taking our class today to obtain some professional standard hours, which is awesome. But I want to bring up the point now that I've mentioned the offer versus serve waiver, that all school districts are allowed this year to participate in the seamless summer program to feed their children and feed them all for free at no cost to the students under this SSO program. And you will be receiving a higher reimbursement rate, the summer food service reimbursement rate. Teachers, however, are not going to be able to eat for free. Schools must still charge their teachers the correct amount or be supplementing that from some other non-federal funds. All right, let me move on now with the other required trainings. Civil rights training. When you filled out or started your application this year in CARS, you had to attest that your employees would obtain the civil rights training that is out on the OSDE Connect, which was formerly OK Edge. That is required for anyone who is working in or volunteering in the child nutrition program. Also, the ABVM is a required training that one person from every school district must attend an ABVM, and that stands for applications, which is your free and reduced lunch forms, which your school may or may not be collecting this year, but we are highly, highly encouraging schools to collect the free and reduced forms. The B stands for benefit issuances. So after you collect your applications in a normal school year, you would issue free or reduced or, not applicable for those students. So benefit issuance, verification of the free and reduced forms. This year, if your school district does collect applications, you're going to skip the benefit issuance, but you still must do verification. Is it going to be difficult to get first applications back from parents because you're feeding all those children for free? Yes, we know that. USDA knows that. We've communicated that with the national office. They are very aware of that. You might try incentives. You might try, the back to school nights. Putting a letter on there that's stating that, you are feeding your children for free, but due to other funding purposes, you're asking parents to please complete these applications. The M for ABVM stands for meal counting and claiming. If you've attended ABVM, we talk about how to submit a claim, claiming, doing edit checks. Those are very important information that a school district must be aware of annually. So some of our state agency trainings, you can find those in other documents. Usually Kendra has listed things in the other documents, training information upcoming. That's where we post our links for, like today, we're also having procurement training this afternoon. She gives instructions for training, how to get on the Zoom. If you're going to go out to OSDE Connect, which was formerly OK Edge, these are some self-paced trainings that you can do online. ABVM should be up and going if someone in your district needs to take ABVM and you weren't able to jump on one of the Zooms. And this year we did have a few, the consultants did have a few ABVMs in person. So yay for that. We were greatly appreciative that was able to happen in some of our parts of our state. Also, don't forget about Cooking for Kids. Cooking for Kids offers some low to no cost trainings. They work to help you have a healthy lunch on a budget. You could have a shelf consult who can help you work on your plate waste to get student buy-in. They're here for you. Cooking for Kids, there's their website. Go out and investigate. I know they've wrapped up trainings for this summer. Usually once you attend that in-person training, that's where you can qualify for the shelf consult. We had a grant this year and was able, Cooking for Kids, the State Department and Farm to School, the Department of Ag, we had a grant for 3 trainings in the eastern part of the state. That was to bring farmers and schools together. If you do not participate in Farm to School on a big scale, that might be something you look into as far as for your menus and local purchases. Some other additional trainings, I talked about Team Nutrition and the Institute of Child Nutrition. Team Nutrition has free webinars. Usually they're the 3rd Thursday of the month. If you're on their email list, you're going to receive some updates. I received an update this morning on professional standards that took you back to the kind of the website we were looking at. There is a professional standard booklet. Kendra, in your handouts that she sent out yesterday, I'm not sure if there was professional standards. She sent out the handouts that had the PowerPoint if you needed to print that out. There was also some smart stacks, your wellness. We might include some professional standards later on, but those can be found at Team Nutrition. The Institute of Child Nutrition, the ICN.org website, is also a wealth of information. I'm going to try to click on the ICN and share our screen again so you can see. Okay, it tells me I can't get to the ICN. Okay, well, the other one worked just peachy. Oh, nope, it's telling me your connection isn't private, that I could get hacked in, so I'm not going to go there. But you should have these web addresses in your handouts so that, like I said earlier, if you are looking for ways and training hours for you or your staff, these are wonderful, wonderful places to go to obtain some free training. I mentioned the schools that contract with food service management companies, that the SFA and the FSMC will both need a director. They both have to obtain those 12 training hours. And we do this so that the schools understand they are the ones responsible for claiming meals, not only claiming, but the meal patterns and everything during an administrative review falls on this SFA. It does not fall on the food service management company per se. We, being the State Department, have a contract with the school, not with the food service management company. So during a review, our consultants look at and visit with the school. Now, do we run around and ignore the FSMCs? No, we communicate with them also. That's not what I mean by, we only communicate with the SFA. We communicate with the SFMC, but ultimately the contract is between us and the school, not the FSMC. Now we're gonna, I guess, transition into Smart Snack. I'm gonna look and make sure we didn't have any questions about professional standards in our chat. I do not see any. And remember, if you think of a question later on, please pop it up in the chat. And we'll try to get it answered as best we can. So Smart Snacks, it's also a part of the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010. It established nutrition standards for all foods sold during the school day to the children. Now we're gonna, get into some details of what is a school day, what can and can't be sold. But just remember, it's what is sold to the students. So what must meet a Smart Snack standard? It's any food or beverage sold to children during the school day. And it does not include the meals that are provided part of the school meal program. So your national school lunch, school breakfast, seamless summer lunch, breakfast, those are not a part of the Smart Snack standards. They have their whole other different standards they must meet to be a reimbursable meal. Some examples might be if you're selling a la carte to your students, those items must meet the Smart Snack standards. If you have vending machines, school stores, snack bars, if you're selling that, these must meet the Smart Snack standards. Now, beverages and food sold for fundraisers, unless these items are not intended for consumption. You have your Blue Gold sausage, pizza kits, cookie dough. Those items aren't intended to be eaten on site, so they are exempt from the Smart Snack standards. So how can you tell if your item or items are going to meet the Smart Snack standard? There is a calculator that you can run your items through. I'm not sure this is going to let me open the calculator? Oh, it did. So let me share my screen to our Smart Snack calculator. Okay, so I'm hoping everyone is seeing the Smart Snack calculator. You simply tell it, is your product a snack, a side, an entree, or a beverage? So let's just click through one. Let's just say it's a beverage. Then you're going to go to the next step. And it's going to ask you, are you selling it in the high school, elementary, or middle school? So let's say we're going to sell this item in the high school, because I have my big Sonic drink here, so I don't have the nutrients on it, but it's a Diet Coke, so we're going to go with that. And it's asking some questions. Is it milk? Is it water? Is it flavored? So no, let's go down here and say it's other flavored or carbonated beverage. All right, so our next step is the volume of the container. I'm going to put in 32 ounces because that's what my cup is, and calories are 0. And it's a Coke. And it's a diet. This product is not compliant, so you would print this out. And if you had another item and it's because it was over the amount of ounces that is allowed for high school students to have. So let's go back to our PowerPoint. So that is how you would use your Smart Snack calculator. So if your item does not have a label and you're making it from scratch, you could either use your approved nutrient software analysis or do a recipe analysis on it. In CARS, we have a form for you to use your food buying guide and to make a recipe and to look at the nutrients that are in that to see if your item qualifies. This is the nutrients that are allowed to for an item to be sold to your kiddos. You know, you see your calorie limits, if it's a snack, an entree, and that's what the calculator does for you. It looks at all this information and lets you know if that item is Smart Snack compliant. So outside of school hours is not regulated. So if you're at a basketball tournament and it's after school, that is not regulated. If it's a track meet on Saturday, that is not regulated. What a school day, the definition of a school day is midnight the night before until 30 minutes after the last bell rings. So just remember that. Remember, it's what is being sold that is not a consumable product. Now let's talk about exempt fundraisers. In Oklahoma, we have allowed the State Department of Education's board allows 30 fundraisers per site per semester for 14 days. You have to have a written board-approved policy to have exempt fundraisers. If you do not have a board-approved policy, this will be looked at in an administrative review and be a finding. And if you've seen up on the PowerPoint, there's like a C-70 on this one. These are the page numbers in the child nutrition manual that coincide with these slides. So if you're looking back through in the next few days, if you're like me and you know somebody says, well, how many days was it Dana said we can do an exempt fundraiser? And you know, you think, okay, that was on C-70 because you remembered that, but you didn't remember 14 days. Just a place for reference, or if you needed to read more information about the exempt fundraisers, you would know in the manual where to go. Your board approved policy must have a person designated as the contact for your fundraisers. Exempt fundraisers, and this is very, very important, exempt fundraisers. So if you're selling candy bars, you're selling slices of pizza that you bought down the street from the local pizza vendor, These are prohibited from taking place or being sold during breakfast, lunch, or when the after-school snack is being served. This includes your vending machines, your snack shops, your student stores. And this is something we look at during an administrative review. And if your policy, you've got everything in order and we're walking through your building and your vending machines are turned on and kids are using them during lunchtime, that could also be a finding. We're working to get kids healthier, not, trying to be mean. I know when the exempt fundraiser policy came out, there was a lot of discussion. And when Smart Snacks came out in 2010, I was still a director, and it just floored us that we were going to have to be the police of the school district for all foods that were being sold to the kiddos. Now let's transition into our local wellness policy. There is some information in your handouts concerning the local wellness policy. Oh, and I didn't mention there were handouts about the Smart Snacks for you to look at. The local wellness policy, of course, came about with the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010. And remember, this Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act in 2010 was the first major change we had in school meals since, I believe, 1995, when nutrient standards came on the scene. So, long time coming. Some folks still refer now to, the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act meal patterns as the new meal patterns. Well, they're, what are we, 21, so 11 years old. That is hardly new meal patterns, but when you don't change meal patterns very often, it's easy to hold on to that. So your local wellness policy, it's a document that needs to be written by the school district. And you notice we put LEA, not SFA. LEA is your local education agency. That is your entire school district. SFA is your school food authority. So this SFA is just concerned with school food in the lunchroom, what is being served to the kids under the National School Lunch, School Breakfast, Seamless Summer or Summer Food Service Program. The LEA encompasses your entire district. What I'm alluding to is this document is not just to be written by the SFA and then pushed out. It needs to be an entire school body policy. It establishes a healthy school environment, or helps establish a healthy school environment. It promotes the students' health and well-being. It just gives you a document, a plan of action of how you're going to work with your school, your students, your staff to help them become healthier individuals. This plan needs to address the unique needs of your school. You don't want to, if your school XY, you don't want to go to school Z and just copy and paste their plan. If you do, it might have things in it that you're not willing to do. On the information for your wellness policy, you need to form a team. These are some of the folks that you need to invite to be on your team. It's very important that you have some parents, some students. Now you see the School Food Authority. I wish I had my little pen and I could circle School Food Authority. We see those folks left out sometimes, and regulation states that the School Food Authority employee must be on the team. You can even have other child nutrition employees. Maybe you want a cafeteria manager. Invite someone from the school board. If you're not personally connected to your school board members, talk to your administrators and see who would be a good advocate for the school wellness policy. Your administrators, maybe your PE teacher, your coaches, your school nurse, maybe from the public, maybe a fireman. If a teacher is married to a fireman, or firewoman. Maybe they would be a good person to be on your team. Police officers, the person that runs the local gym. All of these people are wonderful to have on your wellness committee. So our wellness policies, we need to assess the needs of our kids. Some of these are just websites where you can find things and information about your wellness policy, how to assess the needs, how to plan for some physical activities and healthy eating. These are just some ways to look at and grow your wellness policy. The wellness policy is not just a static document. It should be a living, breathing document that is looked at periodically at a minimum of once a year. A lot of schools use their Safe and Fit Kids committees to pull in the wellness committee. That is perfectly fine. Just make sure when you have those committee meetings that you include your wellness policy in the agenda so that you have that for the administrative review. Your wellness policy needs to contain some certain items for us at the State Department to know that your wellness policy is in line with regulations. You need goals for nutrition, promotion, physical activity, and your student wellness. Guidelines for all those beverages sold in the school day. So you might have that smart snack conversation here with your wellness policy committee. Maybe your wellness policy, that committee does not want exempt fundraisers in your school district. That might be a part of your wellness policy. Just make sure if you put that in your wellness policy that everyone knows and is on board and has buy-in. A couple of years ago was doing a review. The wellness policy was completed by the food service director because that's what their superintendent had them do. They would not have any exempt fundraisers. They would not sell any foods or beverages to students. We're doing a review. We go into the middle school and there sits a vending machine full of Dr. Peppers and candy bars. The principal had never heard of the wellness policy and had no idea he could not be selling basically the fundraising type foods, candy bars and things in his school. So that was a finding on that school. The last line, permit input from parents and students, staff. If you do not have buy-in on this wellness policy, it's just a useless piece of paper. The requirements are you have to form that team, and we looked at those people. You have to implement the policies and the needs for your school district. You need to maybe even create some policies. Public notification is very important. You have to advertise your wellness policy. We look for this to be on your website. That is the easiest way to make sure your people know about the wellness policy. You have to assess your wellness policy, implement those measures, inform the public, and measure your compliance. And like I said, public notification is required. That's in the 7 CFR 210.313. Make sure that it is put on your website, the website listed in your handbook that says the wellness policy is on our website at www.xyzschool. So here are some best practices. Maybe talk about the wellness policy on your social media page. If you're having a back to school wellness meeting, you're going to talk about it. Make sure you include that for your parents and stuff to know. You're going to implement these policies. You need some oversight. Like I said, you need buy-in from your school and staff. You need to market this wellness policy. It's very important that it is managed. The triennial assessment. It is required that you conduct a triennial 3-year assessment on the wellness policy. However, this year for fund year 21-22, it will not be looked at in the administrative review. That is going to be totally a district decision if you do the assessment on your wellness policy. Example of some assessments can be found at the ICN, the website there. You can go to that. You need to update this wellness policy as needed. And again, make the public aware of the wellness policy. If you've not ever investigated some of the TSET grants, they can help with your wellness policy because there's certain things in the wellness policy. There's certain things must be in your wellness policy to apply for these TSET grants. And they're out there. So if you're needing some funding for things in child nutrition or playground equipment and different things, get with the Department of Health and or call us here at the State Department and we can get you in touch with the person to talk about the TSET grants. During an administrative review, we look at make sure the wellness, that you do have a wellness policy, document how you made it available to the public. All of these items, or a lot of these items, are uploaded in our administrative review tool. So we want to know who those responsible parties are for reviewing it. We want to see a sign-in sheet that you met, who those stakeholders are, who the parent, Susie James was the parent, Susie Smith was the student. Make sure those are all out there for us to be able to look at. We want to be able to look at your most recent assessment. We want documents showing how it was made available to the public. We will go to your website. We will look to see that your wellness policy is accessible on your website. Now we're going to transition again. Let me look and see. I'm not seeing any questions. Are you guys still with me? Let's hear a shout out from everyone just to see who all still here. Just throw up in the chat. I tell you what, let me see if I can do something real quick. I was going to do a poll, but it says my polls are inactive. I see a lot of people piping up in the chat that you're still with me. Thank you. Thank you. So let's talk about after school snacks just a little bit. This year, because of the waivers, if you are normally not offering after school snacks because your site is not 50% or more free or reduced, that is going to be allowed this year. So if you normally don't do the snacks, you might want to go in and complete that in your National School Lunch application, because you will be claiming your breakfast and lunch under SSO. You will claim your snacks under NSLP. Snacks can only be claimed on accredited days. And a part of the after school snack program is there has to be a review twice during the school year. Once within the first 4 weeks, it says of school of operation. So if you don't start the snack program till October 1st, you must review them within that first 4 weeks of operation. And then one more time during the school year. The review form is on page C16, and it has specific questions related to your review of your after school snack program. And I was ahead of myself a little bit. Waiver 93 is waive the area eligibility for the after school snack program. So you will, if you're not over 50% at that particular site, you may claim the meals this year and they will be reimbursed at the free rate. The free rate this year, I believe, for after school snacks is $1. Enrichment or educational component of the after school snack program in the schools, the National School Lunch, or if you're providing snacks under the Child and Adult Care Food Program, The educational and enrichment components have not been waived, so you will still be responsible for sending out enrichment. After school snack program, you have to operate the National School Lunch Program, or this year SSL, provide after school setting. You have to include that enrichment or educational activity. This year, they're free for school year 2022. Some page numbers in the child nutrition manual for the contents of the snack. We're going to look at a little bit of their meal pattern. It says snacks eaten on site. However, this year, because of the waivers, those meals can be sent home. If you have the virtual students and you're sending meals home, the snack can be a part of that because of the non-congregant and the mealtime waivers. You still have to keep your records, attendance, meal counts, food production records, and your on-site reviews that we just talked about. The meal pattern for the after-school snack is you have to offer two, I shouldn't say offer, you have to serve two of these four components, and they have to both be served. It's not an offer versus serve. It's not a choice. It's not put out a milk, a vegetable, fruit, bread, and a meat, and a kid pick up two. It's you pick two and you serve it. And then there's some caveats. This meal pattern is not quite as strict. Bread grains do not have to be whole grain rich. We would like for them to be whole grain rich, but it is not a requirement. You can serve, if you have children 3 to 8, or 3 to 5, you can serve that meal pattern, which is just a little less servings sizes. Most schools do the children ages 6 through 18. It's the cup of milk, 3/4 cup of fruit or vegetable, or a combination of those two, 1 serving or 1 ounce of bread grain, and a 1 ounce meat or meat alternate serving. In other words, we were talking about serving two. So let's say you were going to serve a pint of your milk, your 1 cup of milk, and then maybe crackers. So the child would have to pick up the milk container and the whole serving of crackers. If you have any questions on the servings or anything on the after school snack program, please do not hesitate to call your consultant or call here at the office, and we can help you navigate through that program. Let's look at the fresh fruit and vegetable program. This is kind of, I love the fresh fruit and vegetable program. I'm an advocate of offering these kiddos fresh fruits and vegetables on this program. It is a grant program. We reimburse you for what is purchased. It's not, you don't count how many meals, because there's no specific serving size to go along. It is only, however, for the elementary schools. It has to be in the slides. If you notice, the last bullet here, new, hot off the press, received a memo yesterday, or actually the 9th. Oh, wrong memo. Lost my fresh fruit and vegetable memo. August 9th, we received the question and answers, and that is posted in cars. Basically, they took the question and answers from 2021 and have repeated them for 21-22. So you can serve them outside of the regular school day. With the non-congregant, you can offer them at the different times. It doesn't have to necessarily be not with lunch. You can send them home with the virtual students, but you're not required to do a educational component. That is a best practice. So if you have any questions on what we can and can't do with fresh fruit and vegetable this year, please go find that memo and print it and read through it. We will discuss it a little bit on the school call on the 23rd of August. So the fresh fruit and vegetable grant in a normal year has to be served outside of the normal meal times. Funding is based on $50 to $75 per enrolled student in the prior year. Did not see in this memo if we're going to base that on what you turned in for your enrollment on October 2020 or October 2019. We will hopefully have that answer soon. It's a cost reimbursement program, so you will be reimbursed for what you spend on the program. We ask that you spend all of your money. We more or less hound you to spend all of your money. It's very important. If you don't spend the money, USDA takes the money back. If you see in red down here, this is not the DOD fresh fruit and vegetable program. So on the application in CARS, you will see it on your checklist. But if you did not participate in the fresh fruit and vegetable program last year, you cannot open it. You need to call myself or Rhonda Stevenson, and we can unlock that for you. Remember, you can pay some labor out of this. Sometimes we have schools that say, oh, we don't have time, I can't afford it. So you maybe pay someone some extra time to produce the fresh fruits and vegetables. Because you do have the money to spend, you can buy some more prepackaged things to make this a less labor-intensive program. This program runs from October through September. This year, the application, we will stop taking applications for the next fiscal year on August the 20th. So if you're interested, please let me or Rhonda know, and we can open that and you can get that application. It's not a very complicated part of the CARS application. It's very, very simple. Procurement, in a normal year, you have to follow all your child nutrition program procurement regulations. However, remember, because we are still in a state of emergency, you may use the emergency purchasing for procurement and not have to follow all the purchasing regulations. Micro purchasing is an excellent way for you to purchase items for your fresh fruit and vegetable program. Just make sure it is in your procurement plan. Procurement training is this afternoon at 1. If you use geographic preferences, must be in your procurement plan. Micro purchasing basically states if your invoice cost is less than $10,000, you can purchase as long as you spread the wealth. This is a wonderful way if you still have some farmers that are producing and you want to get with farmers and maybe you're purchasing from a couple different farmers, you may use micro purchasing for this method. If you have questions about procurement, let us know or let your consultant know, and they'll be glad to help you. After the application closes for the fresh fruit and vegetable program on the 20th, we will schedule a training for this. It'll probably be a Zoom training. We do need you to attend a training. You can, like I said, contact me or Rhonda Stevenson. You do need to get signatures. So you have to, after you complete the application and cards, you print it out. You have to have your food service person signature, the building principal signature, and your superintendent signature to participate in this program. That winds up for today. I'm going to look through the chat to see if there were any questions. I tried to watch it as we went along to see if we had any questions that needed answered. All right, I don't see any. You guys now are all clear on smart snacks, professional standards, exempt fundraisers, fresh fruit and vegetable program. What was our other topic? Wellness. It will take a few days. When do you serve the fresh fruit and vegetable? Normally, Carla, you serve it outside of mealtime, so you wouldn't serve it with your breakfast or lunch. This year with the non-congregant waivers, you can actually serve it with the lunch. That money can't be used to buy fruits and vegetables for your lunch line, but let's just say you're serving lunch, you're going to set up a separate cart and put your fresh fruit and vegetables that any child, whether they brought their lunch, whatever, are going to go by and pick up maybe a bag of carrots or a bag of apples. Do you need to reapply? Yes. If you were on it last year, Christina, you need to reapply. If for some reason your checklist is not open, contact me or Rhonda and we can check that open. We don't open it just for the masses because it is so named Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, and the DOD, people get it confused. They go in and fill out for the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Grant, thinking they're filling out for the DOD Fresh. So we want to make sure that we communicate that with you guys out there in the school. Any other questions? You guys have been great. I know I really like interactive. I like being able to see your faces as much as anything. Training, Zoom trainings are to me are a little harder because we don't get that immediate feedback. But if you guys don't have any other questions, we're going to end for today. We thank you guys. You guys have a great school year. I applaud you. I miss seeing you guys. But if you have any questions, my email is dana.parker@sde.ok.gov. I'll throw that in the chat real fast, just in case you need that. Matter of fact, all of our email addresses and phone numbers can be found in the Child Nutrition Manual or on the State Department of Education website. Thank you guys. You guys have a great school year.